guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the View from the Crowd YouTube channel. And the fact that I decided to actually record this video on the hottest day of the year is testament to what this video is. It is the return, finally, of the F1 season. You know, in the last video I was talking about it's only been 100 days in the break there. It's been 7 months, 7 whole months since the last F1 race. But finally, we are getting the season back, and my God, it feels so long. It feels so long. But honestly, I cannot wait for it to start and get going once again. And we're kicking things off in just over a week in Austria. Just relief, everything's slowly coming back to normal now, and in a few days I can get this disgrace of a haircut off. Anyway, let's just get straight into this video. So as it's been almost 7 months since the last any F1 action, but actually we saw some testing in February, and honestly if I didn't go to that testing I think I'd be going absolutely insane at the moment. But still, it's still been a whole lot of time in between any F1 action, any on-track action, that maybe I should put together a little guide just to sort of bring everyone, if you're a hardcore or even a casual fan, up to speed so you know everything coming in to Austria. So that's what I've done. I've put together a literal PowerPoint presentation because I don't know how to do graphics at all. So yeah, please sit back and enjoy this presentation, very crudely put together presentation. So yeah, enjoy. So here we are guys, welcome to the View from the Crowd's guide to the 2020 F1 season. Firstly, the team that you knew as Toro Rosso is now AlphaTauri, or AlphaTauri as some people like to call it. But before you're fooled into thinking it's some brand new team, it's actually just the name of Red Bull's clothing line. But I'm not complaining, just look at that livery. In terms of driver changes, there aren't many this season. The most significant change is that Esteban Ocon has left his reserve driver role to pair it with Daniel Ricciardo at Renault, while Robert Kubica has left Williams to take a test driver role at Alfa Romeo, and Nicholas Latifi is taking his spot at Williams. The big change for this season is the calendar. Here are the original 22 races that were scheduled to take place in 2020. However, due to the coronavirus outbreak, many races have been cancelled or postponed, leaving us with a provisional 8-race calendar with a double header in Austria and Britain. So this is what the current calendar looks like. As you may not know, you can't have 2 Grand Prix with the same name, hence the Steiermark and the 70th anniversary race. But as I said, this is only provisional, and these races that have been postponed are still looking to be added to the calendar with a possible doubleheader in Russia or Bahrain. But that's not all, because there are rumours that Hockenheim could return to the calendar along with Imola, Mugello and a potential doubleheader at the Circuit Algarve in Portugal. But with so much speculation, the only thing I can say is, who knows what's going to happen. But what other changes are there for this season? Well, due to COVID-19, there are a few protocol changes to keep all personnel safe. There will be no podiums at the end of the race, strict social distancing measures have been put in place, there will be no fans in attendance, there will be extensive COVID testing, teams will have greatly reduced staff at each race, and all teams are being encouraged to use private transport as much as possible. This is all a part of F1's 5 steps to safe racing plan. But enough about all that. Let's have a look at the team, starting with the reigning champions Mercedes. Mercedes were the talk of the paddock in February with their innovative dual-axis steering, or DAS for short. If you just ignore that, this is McLaren, you can see that the tyres don't actually point ahead but off to the side. This is called toe, and it helps the car handle much better through corners. However, an adverse effect is when on a straight, tyres want to go in the opposite directions, and this causes drag on these areas. So what DAS allows the driver to do is pull on the steering wheel and the tyres straighten out, reducing the drag and allowing the car to go faster in the straights. It's just ingenious. If you want more detail about toe and what DAS does, I'll leave a link to Chainbear's video down in the description. It's amazing and goes into so much more detail. I just gave it a little brief overview. So now we go on to Ferrari. Now Ferrari released their car, and most people really couldn't tell the difference between their 2019 car and their 2020 car, including myself. I really could not tell. I couldn't tell the difference whatsoever. And in testing, Ferrari looked just a shell of what they looked in testing last season. They were having issues with the car, both with the engine and just general things on the car, and it was not a great way. Hopefully during this break they've managed to sort some of the issues that they were having during testing and can arrive in Austria with a much more complete and maybe a bit more competitive car than they had in testing. But honestly, who knows what's going to happen with Ferrari this season. It could be great, could be tragic, but now on to Red Bull. Red Bull have taken a bit of a radical change to their approach this season. Usually their car is built for Monaco, built for high downforce, but as you can see in the picture, their car this year is a lot more skinnier, a lot more aggressive, and there's something about those veins on the top. They remind me of something. Yes, that's it. But all joking aside, Red Bull seem to have built a brilliant car. In testing, they were looking quick and very, very good. The car didn't seem to have any reliability issues. You know, the Honda engine seems to be working well, and it could be potentially Max's best shot at a driver championship over this short period. And of course, starting in Austria, a race that he's won back to back, can he win it back to back in a single season? Who knows? But I think putting a bet on the Red Bulls to start strong in Austria wouldn't be too bad at all. Now on to McLaren. And recent news has not been kind to them at all. It looks like McLaren are in a bit of financial difficulties, looking for nearly £280 million to make sure that they stay competitive in Formula 1. Now, current indicators looking like they may be getting some loans from Bahraini. Now, some indicators may be looking like they're going to get some loans from Bahraini banks to be able to fund them from 2021 onwards. We don't know how much this is going to affect their 2020 performance, but when they're buying engines now off Mercedes, which is going to be considerably more expensive than buying off Renault, it's really interesting that this is happening. And we've seen this huge rise of McLaren, but are we going to see the end of that because of their horrendous cash flow issues that they're having? Now we're on to Racing Point, or should I say the pink Mercedes. Now a lot of controversy has surrounded Racing Point this season with the design of their car, and it does really make you question, because you just look at them back to back, well, next to each other, and you can see that they're blatantly almost the same car. It really does get you wondering. But in some better news for Racing Point, they will be known as Aston Martin Racing from 2021 onwards, which honestly, for anyone who's a fan of motorsport, they want to see the Aston Martin name. It's so iconic, and I am praying all my might that they use their WEC livery, the lime green with the British Racing green. Whoa, that would look amazing. Now going on to Renault, not really much I can say about Renault is that they kept their car very secret before they're launching it in testing in February, but they've gone, like Red Bull, a very lean, aggressive approach, but testing was not the best for them. They didn't get as many laps as most other teams, they were having setup issues, they lost a whole half an afternoon of testing in one day because they couldn't switch it from Daniel Ricciardo's setup to Esteban Ocon's. Now this is like basic fundamental Formula 1 stuff, and they couldn't even get that right. And they're looking to, brush off what was a pretty mediocre season for them last year and progress, but I don't know if I can see that happening this season. I would be interested to see how Ocon does back in Formula 1 now after his year out, and see how Daniel does now he's had a year under his belt at Renault, which will actually now be his last, because of course the big news was, has all been going, is that Carlos Sainz is leaving McLaren to go to Ferrari, as Sebastian Vettel is leaving Ferrari, and Daniel Ricciardo is now coming in to partner Lando Norris at McLaren. Oh my god, that setup, that team setup sounds amazing. I can't wait to see what it does. But yeah, just in case you missed it, there's the sort of the silly season talk at the moment. There's still loads still to figure out what is going to happen. At Renault, they still haven't announced them. There's so much still to happen. I'll leave a link to my blog post that I did all about this if you just want to get caught up further on that. Now we go on to AlphaTauri, and there's not much to say. They got a new name, they got a new livery. Same drivers. The car looks more or less similar to last season. How much they're going to be able to compete against the likes of Racing Point or Renault or McLaren is unknown, because all three look to have fairly decent setups for this season. Are we going to see 2 podiums from them this season? Probably not. It's a weird one. We really don't know what's going to happen with them. Now on to Alfa Romeo, where again, nothing happened. Same drivers, more or less the same car, not much changing. Testing wasn't brilliant. They didn't get very many laps in. They didn't really do much. Their pace wasn't outstanding or memorable or even interesting. Even though Kimi did, I think he finished second in a session one day, but that was like the best thing that happened to them over the 2 weeks. Things are not looking good at Alfa Romeo. There's, they had that peak in 2018 with Charles doing absolutely brilliant, but it's looking like they're on the downward trend now, back to where they used to be, which is sad and a bit of a shame, but it's just sort of the cruel realities of Formula 1. And now on to Haas. The only thing I can say really about Haas is that if this season goes even remotely as bad as last season, they need to seriously evaluate their position. Everyone needs to be under serious scrutiny of that team if this season doesn't work out for them. This is their redemption season. They need to show that their car can actually adapt to each track rather than having to stick it in an Australia setup, because that's the only place where they gained any decent points all season. But who knows? Who really knows if they're going to build a car that will suit these Pirelli tyres? Of course, there was a vote to change the compound for this year, but the compound will not be changed. And Haas really struggled with those compounds with Pirelli tyres. So if they can work with their car to make it actually perform on those tyres, then they could have a decent package and maybe be back to where they were in 2018, fighting with Renault, fighting with McLaren, up there trying to get the 4th place in the constructors. But as long as it's better than last season, I can't see too much really happening at Haas this season. Just hopefully they can keep their drivers from crashing into each other, because if you ask me, keeping those two as a driver pairing was a terrible decision. Now finally on to Rocket Williams. Oh no, sorry, scrap that. It's just Williams now. Anyway, Williams have been in a bit of a tough spot during this break. It's not been easy for them. The Williams family have now having to sell their shares in the company, so whether or not it will actually be called Williams anymore, it's looking like Nicholas Latifi's dad, who's already been pumping millions into that team along with Lawrence Stroll in the past. He's looking like he's going to be the one who's going to take over. And if to make matters worse, their title sponsor, who they had to get rid of, it's looking like they're going to go to Mercedes now. So even though we saw this a beautiful looking car, in my opinion, rock up in testing with that Rocket sponsorship, it's looking like they're going to have to completely rechange their livery, and I'll be interested because it should be announced within a few days, or if not today when this is coming out. So that's it really. That's my guide to the 2020 season. Not too dissimilar from last season, not any regulation changes, and it's going to be the same for next year. There's no regulation changes. I'm just hoping to talk about the new tracks, but of course we still don't know what's going to happen with them. We already know that Zandvoort has been cancelled, but we don't know what's going to happen with Hanoi and a lot of other races. As I said, we still only have 8 races on the calendar, with Mugello looking very likely to come onto the calendar. I'll not be surprised if while I'm editing this, or just after I put this out, Mugello is on the calendar. So just be warned, that might happen. I don't know. So you can't blame me, because at the time of recording this, it's not happening. But as it is now kind of like a week, just over a week before Austria, I will make this kind of a short preview. Usually into the future I will be doing longer previews before the races, but as this race is such a complete unknown, there's not really too much I can say about it. But I can give a few predictions, a few sort of things to look out for this weekend, well, next weekend. So yeah, let's just a short little preview on what I think might happen in Austria. Now, just from the past, Red Bull have always been strong around the Red Bull ring. The last 2 seasons they've won it with Max Verstappen. Mercedes have always tended to struggle. They don't like the high sort of altitude. It seems to mess around with the heating on their cars. Last season they didn't do brilliant. The season before that, again, they had issues with the cooling. So whether or not they've sort of thought about that, considering the fact that there is 2 races in Austria this year, they might think about that and, you know, maybe adapt their car slightly, just make it especially for Austria, just, you know, to allow the engine to have a bit more cooling, and maybe tell Lewis not to ride the exit curb on turn 1 a bit too much, because he had to change his front wing last year. Ferrari were also exceptional last season at Austria. They did very well, and Charles was very unlucky not to win that race. So it could be interesting to see what they can do. I don't really have too much faith in their car and the way that the team is at the moment, but yeah, who knows? It could be a real interesting one to see. It's such an unknown race. We don't know what to expect, like, whatsoever. So yeah, it's going to be a weird one, but hopefully we're going to see some good racing, and hopefully we're going to sort of come back to 2020 with a bang in Formula 1. Now, as we sort of look lower into the sort of the midfield battle, I don't know what's going to happen. Racing Point seem to have an incredible car. Well, you'd expect when they've just copied the W10. McLaren looked very solid. They didn't show anything amazing in testing, but they did show that they have a very solid package, with 2 drivers who did very well. Lando Norris got up to 3rd on the opening lap last season. Carlos Sainz cut through from the back and finished amazingly in the points. So it could be real interesting to see what they can do. Of course, then you've got Renault. We don't really know too much about Renault's car and what it's capable of. That could be a huge shock. And Haas also qualified incredibly well. You know, Kevin Magnussen qualified 5th at the race last year before getting a penalty which saw him back, and then they had horrendous issues with the tyres which saw them slip even further back. So we don't really know what's going to happen. But one thing you can probably guarantee is Williams are going to be at the back. That's the only guarantee. Now, if I was to take a wild guess at what the podium might be, I probably would go maybe Verstappen win, Hamilton 2nd, and then maybe, I don't know, I'm sort of torn between Leclerc and Bottas. I'm going to go Bottas just because I'm really not confident in that Ferrari package and what they can do, and whether or not they're going to be able to pull off as good as a performance they did last year. I feel like Ferrari did have a better package last year. They were looking for more downforce this year, Ferrari, and it looks like they've just added a heap of drag onto their car, which Austria don't want. You've got 3 long straights. I mean, Mercedes have this DAS system, which we're going to see in full effect in Austria, and we can really see how much that's going to affect their speed along those 2 huge straights, and of course the main straight. Start-finish straight. So yeah, it's such a season of unknowns. It's crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. I know all F1 fans are looking forward to it, and it's just a week to go now. And then finally we can have the return of our F1 season. So do let me know down in the comments what you think is going to happen in Austria. Are you excited for the 2020 season? Definitely make sure to leave a comment and let me know down below. As I said, the link to my blog post about all the F1 silly season, that's going to be down below, as well as Chamber's video about DAS and Toe, because he did a really brilliant video. He does excellent videos on Formula 1 and sort of makes the technical stuff a little bit more sort of easier to understand. It's just... He hasn't paid me to say anything. Obviously, I'm only a minnow channel, but yeah, honestly, if you want to get up to date, his channel has been one of the best that I've found. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon just to let you know when I do upload, when a videos come out. Also, make sure to follow my blog post. I've been, writing on there quite a lot recently, just really trying to catch up with all the sport that's been going on and really start getting that sort of going again over the summer when we're going to see a lot more sport. So guys, thank you so much for watching. My name's Blue Edwards. Thank you and goodbye.